The ones
Yeah.
I'm most interested in about those, like you, are the global arrival of self-driving cars.
Quote that you had in the post that I really loved. The tough truth, most delivery problems are fixable, but only if you face them head on.
Now, we did some interesting things. We went and saw another family, the royal family in Sandringham.
The Guardian has put out its 5 tech trends we'll be watching in 2026.
Is that project going to probably need rescuing at some point? But there are hidden costs associated with those issues that I just outlined.
Subscribe to our
It's not on the list.
podcast.
We've missed the marketing opportunity, guys. Hi, everybody, and welcome to 2026 and our first the CTO Lens podcast of the year. Hi, Sophie. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. It's great to see you. Happy New Year, David.
And to you, look, I've got snow.
I know, it's great. Are you going to make a snow angel later?
Yeah, probably. You may maybe do it live on the podcast, to kind of keep it real. But
Yeah.
yes, it
keep
looks
keep
idyllic. Actually, it looks like a bit of a background there, doesn't it? Look, it looks like it's always perfect. It'll all be melted by lunchtime.
Yeah, absolutely. If I didn't know that it was -5 degrees in London today and had already been outside, I would think you had a fake background. But it's nice. It's festive. It's kind of keeping the Christmas season rolling on, and great to hear that you've had a wonderful Christmas and New Year. What for you? What is the most important thing to you about Christmas?
Well, now what are you meant to say here? You're meant to say family, and that is true. But actually, this year, myself and my wife were on our own on Christmas Day. Now, we did some interesting things. We went and saw another family, the royal family in Sandringham, and we went and stood out in the cold and watched them walk to church like a bunch of saddos and waved at them and all that kind of stuff. And that was a bit different for us. So we didn't do family, or not our own family, on Christmas Day. But then we had family the rest of the time, and that was really good. Um, presents, giving them rather than receiving them. I quite like that, the whole thing. Although I'm a little bit guilty of the whole Ali buys all the presents and stuff, and I just get the glory of watching all the nieces and nephews open them and kind of that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I think actually probably the biggest thing is a time to relax. It's the only time of the year that I and probably a lot of other people have time off where you're not going on a holiday. You're not going away, or you've not taken the week off to build a wall, or to
Yeah.
do something. And so it is a truly different sort of relaxing kind, which in itself can have struggles with coming on to work again, right? You can get a bit too relaxed, I think.
Y-
What about you?
Yeah. I think so. I think I'm with you that, family's important. Getting excited to give someone something that you think they're really going to love is such a nice moment. But having this sort of unashamed ability to relax and just, I'm normally a prolific to-do list maker, and I'll have, every second of every day is accounted for, not over Christmas. And you kind of write Saturday and nothing's happening on Saturday because it's Christmas or it's Boxing Day or it's Christmas Eve. But yeah, you sort of, I normally, when I go on holiday, don't 100% disconnect, because it's easier coming back to
Yeah.
not have, forgotten your passwords or completely lost track with what's happening for projects. But at Christmas, because everyone else is disconnecting, you sort of disconnect and you come back in and go, what's my job again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can cause stresses. But let's touch on that point then, right? You say you don't totally disconnect. The nature of our jobs is often that something can go wrong over the Christmas period, right? Sort of thing. So you can get a call. So I don't know if you're ever truly off something, but
Yeah.
actually one of my daily habits, as a lot of people will know, is to go on LinkedIn, look at LinkedIn, see what's on there, comment on a few things, etc., etc. But I'm also a poster, and so I'm used to doing that on a regular basis. And I probably would have made 2 or 3, 4 posts over that length of time that I had off, and I didn't do any. And and that was kind of weird, but I kept by habit every day going into LinkedIn and then finding myself in LinkedIn and going, hang on, what am I doing here? I'm on holiday. Why
Yeah.
am I here? Something. And but quite a lot of my, should I call them peers, fellow posters, people who post regularly, some kind of thought leadership rubbish or other, right? So I think a lot of them were still doing it, like throughout the Christmas period, like to the same level they would. And I was like, okay, am I engaging with this just because I'm not doing it, but they're doing it? So am I respecting their want to carry on and engage with it? And I kept sort of starting and then going, no, I'm not going to engage. No, I'm off. I'm on holiday. I'm I'm relaxing sort of thing. So that was a weird pull for me. I sort of had a desire to keep my habit up, but resisted it. But it's fine that other people do that and check in and stuff. But I didn't really. I mean, my email's
Yeah.
always there in the background, but yeah, I didn't purposely check in on it. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the LinkedIn thing is really interesting. I'm quite a strategic LinkedIn poster, so the post is always going out at the time that's kind of optimized for the algorithm, and you engage with it in a way that is hopefully going to, get whatever message you're trying to get out to the broadest audience possible. I got a notification at 8 p.m. on a Friday, which I think was Christmas Eve this year, someone kind of posting saying, "Hey, we've got this exciting news." And, I would never post at 8 p.m. I would never post on a Friday. And I definitely wouldn't do it if it was Christmas Eve. But I mean, it's nice that people like to stay connected. And I think we all do it in different ways. I think we're both lucky to really enjoy what we do. And so there's interest and there's enjoyment in hopping on LinkedIn and you read someone's put out an opinion piece and you go, "Oh, that's really fascinating." So it doesn't feel like work in that way. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's for me a way to kind of stay connected and to stay sharp, even if LinkedIn's a little bit more quieter. It's not a time that I'm posting during
Yeah,
those days.
yeah. There were a few things. Maybe we'll talk about this when we do a review of one of the posts that I did last year. But there are a few people doing the whole sort of review of the year stuff, and
Yeah,
and there was quite a lot of criticism, which made me think there was quite a lot of criticism for people basically using AI to create thought leadership pieces with buzzword bingo in them and then post them. And
yeah,
I saw a few of this, and a couple of people went off on rants, and I was just like, "Oh, am I falling into that trap?" Because I don't get AI to generate what I want to talk about, but I
yeah,
do use it to refine how I'm
yeah.
articulating it, and I've trained my AI, in my voice, in my tone of voice, and stuff like that. So it's more a sort of a tool, an administrative thing that I do. But I did check myself, and I was like, "Oh, am I one of these people who's just become a prolific buzzword bingo poster?"
I think there's two sides to it. I think I definitely, and I think everyone does, and I hope everyone does because it's so valuable, use AI to kind of polish things and phrase them better. And, from that you pick up tons of phrases that are useful. I think using AI to come up with your content, which is not what you're doing, is something that I don't necessarily agree with. And I'll sometimes read something and go, "What am I supposed to take away from this?" And I've actually got into the habit recently of taking posts and putting them into AI and saying, "Do you think this was written by AI?" And
Right.
often they'll come back with a two-part answer of, well, actually, we think the content is from AI because it's so generic and there's no
Yeah.
unique angle. And then the second part is, well, the content seems to be from a real human being, but it's been polished by AI. And you go, "Okay, great. Well, I'll listen because this is a real person's perspective and not just the entirety of the internet regurgitating the average perspective."
Okay. That's an interesting use of AI to check whether AI is believing. Yeah. Okay. I get it. I get it. Okay. Cool. Uh,
Um, so I have a question,
oh, go on.
because we set ourselves an objective
We
before
did.
Christmas in our last podcast. We wanted to see if Father Christmas would bring us 100 subscribers. And I'm curious to know whether he did. I haven't looked in my stocking, I haven't looked under the tree, whether we
Well, I
made our
did look.
100 subscribers. You
I
did look.
did look in the CTO Lens stocking, and Father Christmas gave it a damn good go, Sophie. I mean, maybe snow sort of slightly slowed him down with the number of subscribers, but we went from a very small number to 57 subscribers, which is in its
Yeah,
infancy, but starting 2026, it was a big uptick, right? It was a big, and so really we owe our listeners a thank you, because whoever it was who bothered to go and click after we asked them to do so and subscribe, we're really grateful for that. Yeah, and I'm sure that number is going to continue to increase as we get more and more people and more shares and more subscriptions. So thank you, everybody. So what has happened in technology in the last week? Well, this is our normal segment, but of course, what with Christmas and stuff like that, and it being the end of one year and the start of a new year, we'll do a little bit of a year-round focus on this, right? So, I'll look at last year, Sophie, and then maybe you can talk to us a bit about what might be upcoming, right?
sounds great.
So, just in terms of tech, I'm not going to go through all of the various things that we talked about, but actually, I think that people have been saying for the last couple of years, "Oh, it's tough in tech, it's tough at." Actually, apparently, UK tech funding, according to UK Tech News, UK tech funding totaled 11.7 billion in 2025. And seed investment in itself, which is, the thing where people are using as an indicator, are we really trying to be innovative as a nation, leapt 19% year on year to 1.5 billion. So that gives me hope, I think, right? That
Yeah,
makes me think,
yeah.
oh, okay, it's not, I mean, some of those were sort of will go on, because they've got AI in front of their name, and I'm sure that drove some of it. But actually, I don't think that's a bad stat for the year, for the last year.
Yeah, I think it's a really good start. I think it's, it's a small drop relative to last year, but there's the kind of broader context that you want to bring in, and everything that happened during COVID and after COVID, and things bounding in different directions for different reasons. I think for me, particularly looking at the breakdown of investment, where we saw that there was a drop in kind of early stage, late stage remained fairly constant, and seed stage actually picked up a little bit. That it's less of a reflecting a kind of drop or recession, but maybe more of a refinement and changing approaches in how people are investing, not necessarily whether or not they are investing.
Yeah, and also sort of what the kind of things that they're investing is. So we did have
Yeah.
6 new unicorns created last year. So there are those big ones that out there that are driving massive scale are still happening. The early stage investment did drop, as you're indicating, by 22% year on year. Late stage funding stayed flat at 5.6 billion, but then, as I say, the seed investment, which surely is the seed for this year, which will then drive into the next 2 or 3 years, that went up by 19%. The largest single raise, actually, it says it was the largest single raise in B raise in European history, was the data center business Nscale. Now that's really interesting because I think, and you'll probably touch on this for 2026, what with the advent of AI or the chip manufacturers or the storage, et cetera, you know, infrastructural data centers are raising the largest amount of money, right? That says something about a direction of travel, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And that is definitely something that's going to come in when we talk about, some predictions that we've gathered for 2026.
Yeah. So just a small little stat at the bottom of this article, which I thought was just interesting, is that when it comes to the placing for cities, who got the most funding in terms of city, obviously, for UK, obviously London was predictably top of the chart at 9.2 billion. But who do you think came second and third? You might get second, you won't get third.
Oh, interesting. Well, okay. I For second and third, I would normally have said Oxford and Cambridge. Obviously, there's a lot of deep tech ecosystem existing there. But so let's maybe say Oxford or Cambridge, either one. Pick one for number two, and then number three. The only thing that comes to mind is, do you remember the leveling up initiative that the government brought out, and they said,
Yes.
well, we need to level up. Let's stop doing everything in London. And then it turned out that the Committee of Levelling Up had no idea what levelling up actually meant. I've heard a lot of talk around Manchester. So that's going to be my guess for number three.
So you were right on the Cambridge Oxford. Cambridge was placed
Okay.
second,
Yeah.
with 724 million. So a long way off of London's 9.2 billion, but that's understandable. But and I like your leveling up thinking, but it didn't go far enough. It needed to
Oh,
go real low level leveling up because it's Swindon. Swindon was the city that raised the third most amount of investment in the UK tech market last year.
wow.
Who knew? Who
Who
knew?
knew? I'd need to go and Google that. That's so interesting. Okay. So what's Swindon is where it's happening now. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was only 145 million compared to Cambridge's 724 million or London's 9.2 billion. But even so, what are they doing with 145 million in the Swindon? I want to know. I'm thinking like I might need to go and find out what companies are there and quickly invest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. London tech leaders on tour. I think we need to go and do a sort of grab your man or woman in the street and ask them what they're doing in Swindon, and maybe
Let's
do a
do it.
little
Let's do it.
expose.
Sounds great.
Amazing.
So that was 2025 from a tech funding perspective. Not as bad as some people maybe thought it was going to be. What does 2026 hold? Do you think?
I mean, I'll look into my crystal ball, and actually and feel free to cut this or keep it if it's fun. One of the funner Christmas traditions that we did this year was this in the moment Secret Santa, where
Oh,
as a family we drive ourselves to the nearest garden centre, always after Christmas. So you have all of the weird Christmassy stuff on discount. Everyone gets £10, a name out of a hat, and 45 minutes, and you have to get a secret Santa present for someone. And our favourite this year was what we call Chat Mystique, which is it's a little porcelain cat with a paw and a crystal ball. And the crystal ball kind of, changes colors depending on how bright it is outside and things like that. So if I was to speak to Chat Mystique and say, what are the predictions that we want to make for 2026? Obviously, it's really, really hard to tell, and we all have our unique perspectives. But UK Tech News has spoken to a number of different VCs to see what they think.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of what we're hearing in the news. And I love these kind of articles because half of the VCs I know are smartest people I've ever met, absolute geniuses when it comes to understanding that sector and pattern recognition. And the other half are total armchair experts. So I'll be really interested to see, which of these predictions come true and which ones don't quite make it. So let me take you through them, David, and I would love to know your thoughts on these. So David Grimm at Albion VC says that Europe is going to finally crack the compute market. We're seeing kind of a sort of cluster of breakout compute companies. We've got great technology across Europe, including the UK, technical founders coming from fantastic, universities and industry hubs. And this is going to be the year that we crack compute. And it's so important because the demands that we're seeing on compute are growing much faster than the technology can scale. So something's got to give. So maybe we're going to see that. What do you think, David? Compute 2026?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds reasonable given the last year, N-Scale raised, all of that 818 million as their Series B, and that was, across Europe. So yeah, I absolutely think that's a continuing trend. It's interesting that he thinks we're going to get our act together, meaning, maybe we haven't had our act fully together in the past, sort of thing. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But Europe's doing a lot more together, and I'm including the UK in the sort of Europe umbrella at that. We seem to be doing a lot more together. I think the whole Trump being Trump and focused on America is maybe making us think more European, strengths together, all of that kind of stuff, economy of scale. So that could come true in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I found out recently that I don't know whether it's the UK or Europe, but obviously compared to the US, produces more unicorns per investor dollar in comparison to the US, which I find absolutely fascinating. So there's this kind of like capital efficiency piece that is obviously much more subtle than how much money is going into any particular sector in any particular year, but definitely worth considering in terms of performance.
I mean, the thing about that is that it depends which angle you come at that stat from. If you come at it, you could come at it from one angle, which is America is throws a lot more money at investment and is a lot more speculative. And is that a good thing? Because then we get variety of investments and stuff. And the UK is a lot more selective. UK and Europe's a lot more selective, but therefore, spend more time doing its diligence and getting a result, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we have a second prediction, and this is from Kibriya Rahman, also at Albion. I don't know if I agree with this one. So Kibriya thinks that we are going to see an institutional embracing of digital assets, so cryptocurrencies, basically, which I think is a really fascinating prediction because, and I think this didn't make it into our last podcast of last year, but two pieces of news around digital assets, cryptocurrencies that came out were one, incoming regulation in the UK of these digital assets, and second, the guy who was going to jail for I think 15 years because he had one cryptocurrency and he backed it on another cryptocurrency and the whole thing fell apart and he wiped out I think it was 3 billion or something from the sort of cryptocurrency industry. So Kibriya thinks that we're moving beyond Bitcoin price cycles and we're now thinking more in a slightly more subtle way about, utility fundamentals, applications that actually make sense. And the UK, again, with all of the kind of tech founder talent we have, is really well positioned to lead this charge. I'm not so sure. David, what do you think?
So it's an interesting one. Crypto is the technology that won't go away, right? It just keeps coming back, and there are some huge success stories in it. There are some billionaires who've made out of it, but then there's so much apparent corruption and criminality around it. And it's operating in the dark web and all of that kind of. It just there's a little bit of me which thinks, why hasn't somebody come up with something else or rebranded it or done something? Just that can happen with technology. You can just rebrand it under another thing that comes. But it seems like it's sort of hanging in there and it's sort of pushing on through. And like you say, the regulatory stuff that we're looking at in the UK. So I don't know, maybe I'm missing something here, but it seems to be doggedly hanging around. And although I would love to have bought a Bitcoin or two, 15 years ago, there is a little bit of me now which is thinking, I think I've mentioned before, I've got a little play shareholding, just a few £100 that I mess about with just to sort of see what goes on. And I've resisted Bitcoin. Maybe I should just see what happens this year and just put a little, couple of hundred in it, see what happens, just see where it goes.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I never invested in Bitcoin. I did put a little bit of money into Litecoin, which was supposed to follow Bitcoin quite closely. This is maybe 10 years ago. And I got my principal out, which was fantastic. It had a really nice peak. And I have what was originally maybe £1,000 in there. That's typically, whenever I check now, worth between £3.52 and £3.75. So I'm waiting for it to kind of come back up. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, that that
Um,
that that's no different from the share market ultimately, right? So,
there you
that's.
go.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe Bitcoin is maturing into an adult. Maybe that's what we're about to see in 2026.
We will see. And I've got one final prediction for you. And this is actually a culmination of two different predictions. And they are, spoiler alert, about AI. So Ivan Niku from Navigate Ventures and Thomas Cavelier, I think I'm pronouncing that right, from RTP Global, both think that AI is going to mature in terms of adoption. So Thomas thinks that we're going to start to see autonomous workflows where we go from having kind of little features in our software that are driven by AI to sort of agentic organisms that are handling entire processes. And Ivan thinks that we're going to see organizations move from kind of, pilots and small scale, dipping their toes in the pool of AI to start to really integrate AI into workflows that have been, kind of incumbent and lack change for a really long time. I mean, my perspective on this, I spent a lot of the holidays battling a customer service bot who would not help me with my issue I was having. And every time I said, one, tell me how to submit a complaint, and two, can I speak to a real human being, would just reply saying, thanks so much, exclamation mark. I hear that you want to speak to a human being. Please, could you let me know, ... and ask for a whole bunch of things that don't make any sense and, not tell me how to, give them the information. So I was quite frustrated by, AI's role in at least consumer support for standard software projects. So I'm not so sure. I think thoughtful introduction of AI, but I think it'll continue to be incremental rather than whole scale replacing workflows and really embracing to the extent that these guys seem to think. What's your take, David?
So we've all got a frustrating AI chatbot story, right?
Yeah.
We all have that. I've taken to when they phone you up,
Oh,
these cold calling ones and stuff like that, and it's so obvious that they're AI, even though it like sounds like a real human and they're using all the right tone and
yeah.
terms. Like that. I've taken to challenging them and saying, "Well, I could tell you the information you're asking for, but I'm worried that you're an AI chatbot." And generally speaking, they've now all taken that on board and they respond positive rather than going, sorry, I don't understand that question or what. They go, ah, ha, ha, you caught me out, but I can still help you. So, sort of thing. So I'm like, they're finding humor in themselves, sort of thing, which I think is probably the way to go because it will engender them to us in the same way that, when actual messaging online sort of chat came about, we were all like, why can't I talk to a human? And then we were like, hang on a second, I can cook the dinner and deal with this problem that I'm having by
Ooh.
going back and forth on chatbot. So I think we might learn as consumers to start to love AI. And I think, I particularly over my family Christmas, lots of people heard lots more reference this year to people using AI to help them with all sorts of things. Now that's in their personal domestic lives and stuff like that sort of thing. This is more about, is it going to grow up in terms of industry? Um, and I think it will in certain areas. I think we saw that last year. We saw it sort of finding its different swim lanes, and so I think that's going to happen. I think the hype is dying down as the CEOs, the CTOs, CIOs knew this the year before, I think, or certainly early last year. The
Yeah.
CEOs are now getting past the hype. They're now, rather than just blindly saying, well, should we use AI for that? Should we, they're now sort of saying, hang on a second, I'm hearing that my mate down the road invested a lot in this and didn't get anything back. So what are we doing and stuff like that? So I think that the conversation around AI and how it can be used in industry is maturing. So I like that. But my favorite hobby, personally and professionally, is still to walk around and point out jobs that AI is not going to replace. So, I
Oh,
had a plumbing failure over Christmas and, I didn't call a plumber because I'm Scroogey, so I got under the sink and was like, and I fixed it. And when I finished, I went, "Well, AI couldn't do that, could you?" And then, of course, you know, phones being what they are, listening to you all the time. One of the next reels that came up was a robot, intricately screwing on a bolt on a on a piece of plumbing and stuff like that. And I was like, am I wrong about this? And I'm like, yeah, but that was like in a lab with a robot hand like this going
Yeah.
like I twisted my back to get that sink, and had bleach spilt on me at the side. So I feel that there are certain areas where AI won't go for a little while, and I'm perfectly happy with that.
Absolutely. I'm seeing that with art. I think the more I see AI produced art, the more I want to buy absolutely anything that is not produced by AI. So
There you go. There you go. Oh well, that was a good little back and forth on 2025 with a little bit of a view into 2026. I guess somebody will encapsulate all of this and come back to us at the end of the year and say, you got this wrong, or you got this right, or whatever. So we'll either be visionaries and seers or complete idiots this time next year. So we'll see what happens, right?
we will see. We will see. And we have a few tech trends as well that we can talk about. So obviously these were predictions for where investment was going to go. But The Guardian has put out its 5 tech trends we'll be watching in 2026. Let me read the titles, and David, let me know which ones you're interested in, and we can double click on them. So number 1, data centers will blanket the globe. Number 2, the global arrival of self-driving cars. I want to talk about this one. Number 3, billionaires are probably going to get richer. That makes me very sad. Number 4, AI does and doesn't transform work. And number 5, consumer hardware is going to get some weird new form factors. And for anyone who has read this article, there is a picture of a man talking to a robot dog. He's a cute dog, though. It's like a chihuahua, maybe.
Yeah.
Don't know what it's for.
So I'm gonna gloss over data centers blanket the globe. Duh, we've already said that. We've seen it in the investment trends, right? We know that's going to happen. I'm going to gloss over the billionaires are going to get richer. Meh. Good luck to them. Blah blah blah. Right? We know why that is. And I'm going to gloss over AI does and doesn't transform work. Right? We just talked about that a little bit, and also I think there's going to be some horses for courses there. The ones
Yeah.
I'm most interested in about those, like you, are the global arrival of self-driving cars. So they are currently. We know they've been doing this in America for a while. They are currently self-driving cars in London. I am desperate to be involved in this, right? I desperately do. My wife and everybody I know are like, oh no, I'm going to have to see that for a long time. I'm like, I want to be one of the first. I want to be in there. I'm definitely early adopter on this, right? And largely because I've seen a lot of the stats around it, a lot of the safety. They're way, way safer than human beings, right? So I think I absolutely want to just experience one of these and be in one of those. So I'm looking forward to that happening. It's going to have to be city-based for a while, I expect, but I'm really looking forward to that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I haven't spotted any in the wild in London just yet, but I was in San Francisco later last year, and I spotted many Waymos, but also I hadn't really appreciated the diversity of different self-driving cars that are actually out there commonly on the road. You see one walk past and go, okay, well, that's a Waymo. I know about that one already. Then you see another one with a kind of blob on the top, and okay, that's Google's one. And it's interesting. It seems almost like a kind of early stage ecosystem meets Mario go-kart races, and they all look a little bit different. And so I'm really interested to see this. And I think for me the question is very much, how do we stay connected, as this kind of industry starts to evolve? How do we stay connected to the why as well as the how of self-driving cars?
I can deal with the why, right? I was out on Saturday evening. Everybody had had a few drinks, but to get home, we were on a train, so that was fine. But then we had to get from the train station to home, right? And it was too cold to walk. So early in the evening, I had to make the decision that I would not drink. Right?
Yeah.
It was just like the end of the holiday season. We went out, a few of us and stuff like that, and I didn't drink. Now I'm pretty okay not drinking, right? But if there'd been a taxi that could have driven us home automatically, that would not have been a problem. So I'm totally like, I get it. Bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. It's a good use case. I found out recently that in China, you can hire something called a drunk driver, which is if you're supposed to be the designated driver and you're not, you actually call someone, they come on a folding bike and they drive you home. They're the driver in your car with their bike in the back.
I love
And
that.
then
I
when you
love
get
that.
home, they hop back on the bike. It's
That's a
great.
non-technical solution to
It's
the same
amazing.
problem, right? I love that. That was a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. So what about these funny little consumer devices? I mean, we like you say, the picture is here like talking to a plastic robot dog and stuff like that. Yeah. But I've seen a lot of robots, old Elon Musk's robot messing about on screen. I saw one of them boxing the other day or something. It's all gizmo-y at the minute. But I don't really mind whether it's a fully fledged walking, talking robot or whether it's just a device that really
Mm.
helps you. And I think there are some applications here for health. I think there are some applications for loneliness. I think there are all sorts of communication driven applications here and practical help applications. And it started with our watches years ago, right? You've got your earphones in. These are all linked together. Everything started to link together. IoT is coming of age in that sense. I'm up for this. I think this is all right. I don't think we should be too scared about this.
Yeah, I think it feels to me like an exciting time where we're transitioning from, hey, we've built this technology and often they're technologies that sit on your body in some way and okay, well it does what it needs to do, but actually the form factor isn't quite there. To your point, some people don't wear their Apple Watch at night because it stops them from sleeping. And so you don't get the stats on sleep and you can't feed those into, lifestyle medicine or give them back to your doctor to help you sleep better. But actually, as the form factors get better, both in these kind of consumer electronics, but also the kind of clinically consumery gray area that sits a bit between the two, the opportunities are going to be much greater. And it's interesting because it's not necessarily so much about the technology, but how we package the technology or how incremental innovations in the technology feed into things like size and temperature that will allow us to use them in different ways. I'm really plugged into the neurotechnology space, and this is a really big question. Like, there's so much opportunity with any technology that can sense from your nervous system, typically around the brain. That information can be leveraged very, very powerfully. But actually, no one's going to sit there with a big box on their head on a day-to-day basis, right? So as we start to see the technologies incrementally improving, that allows the form factor to improve, I think we're really going to start to see greater use, as you say, of this sort of Internet of Things on a day-to-day basis, including in consumer products.
And I think it won't. It'll come in forms we don't expect. We understand wearables and the glasses, the smart glasses. I think we're going to see those proliferate. If I don't have a pair of AI smart glasses by the end of the year, then I'll eat my hat. I think all of those things are going to come. But then that article that we were looking at also says smart duvets in hotels. What's a smart duvet? What's that? How is that? Now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to pick a hotel based on it having smart duvets, right? So I think so. Whichever hotel chains out there are listening, get smart duvets. I'm in.
I haven't tried a smart duvet, but I have some friends who use 8 Sleep, and apparently it's absolutely fantastic. We are not sponsored by 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep, if you want to sponsor us, you are very welcome. But apparently it's great, and it's these sort of innovations that you don't necessarily think about. There are these things that we have that eternal discussion of: do you sleep with one leg out of the duvet, 2 legs out of the duvet, feet out at the bottom? How do you manage your temperature? No one really thinks to go, could I have a smart mattress or a smart duvet to do it for me?
Yeah, yeah. So we're up for that. Okay, good. That was a good review of tech that we should be watching out for. We'll keep reviewing the news for you on a regular basis and bring you the latest and greatest in the world of tech and giving you our thoughts and opinions on that. Okay, so welcome back. Now we're going to go on to our main section where we're going to talk about a topic, a little bit of thought leadership. This one's based on a LinkedIn post that I did last year, which was about rescuing projects. I don't know where I was going with this. I think I don't know what inspired me. I probably was doing a problem project at the time and was probably getting a little bit of resistance from people in terms of an approach to rescue it. I imagine that's what inspired me to write it. But in actual fact, for me, I don't know, Sophie, I think some of the things you've been involved in are more sort of like taking an innovative idea and developing it from a product point of view. Often in the CTO CIO role, you get to the point where the idea maybe wasn't properly set up. It might have been a good idea, but taking it through and then it gets in a position where you've started, you're halfway through it, and it can be an infrastructure project, it can be an IT one, it can be a software development product, whatever. Basically, it goes a little bit wrong. And
Mm.
somebody recently described me as, when I was on another podcast being introduced, they said, here's David Crawford. David is the kind of person who runs towards the fire. And I was like, ooh, I'm not sure I like that. Do I run to us? It makes me sound reckless, sort of thing. I think actually it was just a nice way of saying that I often get called when projects are failing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, hang on a second. I don't always want to be called when projects are failing, right? I quite like the idea of people fixing themselves or stopping getting into those positions. So I sort of was thinking, right, what are the early signs? And so I just wrote a little piece on this, which we'll put the link in the podcast. But I think that you need to just be looking out for these signs all the time, and they're really easy before you get into 6-month multi-million-pound delays, right?
Yeah.
I highlighted a few, right? So deadlines quietly slipping by a week or two. Teams working late but not making real progress. So everybody's working hard again. Well, everybody's working really hard. Everybody's, and they're pulling all the hours and stuff like, but it's not moving the dial. And then the exec team not really having a reality. So somehow they're like, yeah, we understand where that project is and it's moving in the right direction. But actually the customers are like, what's happening? It's not good. We're
Yeah.
not getting what you've missed a commitment again, sort of thing. And so those things, they may seem bleeding obvious, but it's like everything in life. It's how you react to that, right? And then why does that matter? Yeah. Well, because actually, not only is that project going to probably need rescuing at some point, but there are hidden costs associated with those issues that I just outlined. You've got
Mm.
money is wasted on rework because people are having to redo stuff time and time again because it's got late or missed a deadline or missed a dependency. Or the teams are burning out. That's a really important one. So, the quality of their work is going to get less and less the further you get into that project. Customers losing patience. I mean, that's everything for most people, right? Customers losing patience. They're thinking of opening that bottom drawer and pulling the contract out at that point, and you don't want them going anywhere near that. And then also the final thing is trust eroding between the board and the delivery team. So, at some point the board's going to be like, well, why didn't you tell us you were in this state? And you'd be like, we did. We what? And then
Yeah.
that whole relationship falls apart. Yeah. So I just think, so that you can avoid me turning up, so that you don't have to call somebody like me to come and, I don't know, fight fires and there are some simple things you can do and keep an eye on some of these little indicators and get on top of them early.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I wrote the piece about. And I think that's it, probably a problem project I had inspired me to do it. You got any reference or experience of that?
I do. And I spotted this post at the time and it really caught my attention. One, because you got so much engagement from people kind of, discussing in the comments their own experiences, but also because I have had a similar experience, I think to a lesser extent. It sounds like you're the sort of the superhero in cape and underpants that you call in when this happens. I have, by coincidence, a lot of my work has been, let's build something new and exciting. And often the teams are kind of very healthy and dynamic. But I did once find myself in a situation and actually reading the kind of the signs you've got here. So sign number one, deadlines quietly slipping by a week or two. The situation I entered, there weren't deadlines anymore. There was just this kind of like flat line of delivery because they had gone through that stage where, deadlines are kind of slipping and they're not really happening, to the point of it became such a sensitive and contentious point in the culture of the organization that actually, okay, we're not going to do deadlines because every time we try to do a deadline, everyone gets really up in arms and the whole company is about to break apart. So we'll just, tell us when it's ready and we'll accept it when it's ready. But that ready, it never came. Teams working late but not making real progress. Teams weren't working late because they had gone through that cycle of, if I keep churning away, it'll get better. They had seen that it didn't get better. And so everyone was absolutely fully checked out. And again, the exec team, they're reassured that everything's fine while customers are quietly frustrated. I mean, the company I was working in at the time, we were losing contracts. So what you've described of reaching into that bottom drawer, it had happened time and time again. And the exec team was sort of, I think they knew everything wasn't fine because you notice when you lose a contract, right? But it's this kind of, well, where's it coming from and how do we actually fix it? I think is the real challenge. But you had and early, the situation I was in, early had passed a long time ago. But it was only coming into that situation with a new group of people who could look at it and say, well, here's the problem, a fresh pair of eyes to say, well, this is what's happening and it's not healthy and it's bad. And to almost take the naive courage to say that and that led to fixing it was actually really easy. Everyone knows the solution, but everyone sort of sits there with their blinkers on going, this is emotionally extremely difficult. It's very, very stressful. We don't have a lot of confidence. And until you tackle it head on and kind of create that shared awareness of this isn't the direction we want to be going in and we want to do something about it, I think it's difficult to fix a project until you do that, which I'm sure is what you kind of do. You come in with your flag waving and say, guys, this isn't okay. And here's my plan to do something about it.
And so let's start there and work backwards on some of those points you made, because I did get some good responses from colleagues on that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not some superhuman superhero wearing my underpants on the outside of my trousers, right? So I think I'm really, really no better at fixing projects than anybody else. In actual fact, I don't fix projects. I expose projects that need fixing, and then get all of the various stakeholders engaged around the same table on that, right? So it's a facilitation of the fixing of a project rather than the fixing of a project, right? Let's make that really clear. And that's why I advocate, even though I often make money out of fixing projects for people, right? That's why I advocate that people can do this themselves. Yeah. And
Yeah.
one of the comments on the post said, sort of referred to living in amber. Yeah, we have, we're obsessed with RAG statuses. I know there's lots of other metrics, but, execs like a RAG status, right? Because it's a red, amber, green. I
Yeah.
understand that. I drive a car, that's fine, sort of thing. But it's living in amber. Yeah. And it's just like, I say this a lot. I get quite boring, on some of the teams I sit on, saying, what's the path to green? Well, it's only amber. Let's see where we are after the next sprint. It's like, no, we're
Yeah.
amber. Do you know what's after amber? Red. So what's the path to green, right? So think, how do we get there? And it's just ignoring those things a little bit of like, I'm sure it'll be all right. And Fred's pulling a late one on Thursday. He'll recover all of that. It'll be fine. And it's just ignoring that. And I think that the thing with the relationship between the execs is it's an uncomfortable conversation, right? And I think we've touched on this before, but we should at some point talk about communication up and down the chain, right? We should have that
Yeah.
as one of our podcast things, right? Because as soon as you get the C title, or you're in the exec suite sort of thing, people start lying to you, right? And I'm not saying I blame those individuals. It's something the exec have made themselves scary. They've made themselves, you can't unapproachable, right? You just get to the point where you're like, I cannot tell Fred in the exec team that we're
Yeah.
slipping by another 2 weeks. I can't do that. So you
Yeah.
do something else. You sort of go, well, we're a little behind, but we're going to catch up on that. And the exec says, and the trouble is that most of these execs, I mean, some of them are stupid, obviously, right? So I think, but most of them are just spread across a lot of stuff, right? And so if they hear somebody going, we're on it, we understand the problem, we're recovering, they're like, good, that's a fire I don't have to put out today, and they go and focus on something else, right? So I think, and what maybe execs need to do is tune into and ask questions about, well, how are you recovering it? How are you
Yeah.
just paint that picture for me a little? So spend a few more minutes getting that assurance that it is recovered. And for those who are one level below the execs and reporting up into them this progress, this is a really difficult lesson to learn. Be braver, right? They will not kill you in general. I mean, if you would, but they will not kill you in general if that stops them having to have a legal conversation or even just an embarrassing conversation with the customer later on, right?
Yeah.
Internal or external. So that up front, it's just it's a real difficult one, and the execs need to say to their teams, tell us the truth. You won't get beaten up for it. And the teams need to expose that truth, however bad it is, to the execs, so they have their attention and support and help to fix it. And
Yeah.
that's all it is. So actually, what's my main tool, Sophie, when I go in to rescue or fix a product? It's a mirror. And I just go around and I hold up this mirror to everybody and say, look at what you're saying. Look at how you're reacting. Look at, that's my main tool, is a mirror. So I'm not fixing it. People can fix this stuff themselves. They just need to look in the mirror a bit earlier.
Yeah, I love this. I think there's this theme around the acceptability of things not being perfect, because we want them to be perfect. You start a project and you go, well, best case scenario, this is how it goes. And often in project planning, you do build in backups of, if something goes wrong, this is what we're going to do. But often when things start to go wrong, you kind of go, oh, well, no, but maybe it's okay. We really, really want to exist in that space where everything is okay. And so, as you say, it is scary to say, okay, well, something's going wrong, and to admit that, and to admit it, publicly, and to your team and to your seniors. But it is the only path to improving things. And one of my favorite things about this is that I don't think it just applies in tech. I don't think it just applies in business. I had a boyfriend years ago, and we had a terrible relationship. And I would come to him and say, listen, I think we've got this slightly unhealthy dynamic, and it's kind of okay, we can fix it, but I want to talk about it and kind of expose it. And that's the path to fixing it. And he would blow up. He could not accept that everything wasn't perfect. And so the relationship obviously died a terrible death. And so I think it's this very kind of having this acceptance that we don't want things to go wrong, but it's a part of the process. And we have to sort of accept and acknowledge and respond to things going wrong rather than burying our head in the sands. And to your point, that's when you go from, is it green? I think it's green, all the way to, oh, it's red, and it's undeniable that it's red, and it's maybe a little bit too late to fix it.
And just like your disastrous relationship with an ex-boyfriend, it's about communication, right?
Yeah.
And if one party won't communicate with the other party in an open and honest way, then the whole thing's doomed to failure. And so, communication. It's always there. It's. I'd just like to point out, Sophie, whilst I've been
Yeah.
talking, it started snowing. Look at that! Isn't that nice? You
Oh,
might just be able to pick up flecks of snow. It's a wintry wonderland out here. It's looking very nice and festive.
that's beautiful.
That's probably a good point to wrap up this particular subject. I think I got some interesting comments on the post, and it made me think about it. But more about letting people think about it up front than having to rescue further down the road. Luke, take us away, extraordinaire quizmaster for 2026. Are we resetting the score, or are we crossing the years?
Well, no, we're not resetting the score. It's still currently 3-0 to David. So, Sophie, lots of work to do to catch up. But I thought today, as keeping spirit with the new year, that we're going to base the game all around New Year's resolutions.
Oh.
Okay. So today's game is called
The Resolution Race.
Okay, so what I need you to do, David and Sophie, is come up with 7 or 8 New Year's resolutions yourself. So if you could currently write down 7 or 8 New Year's resolutions, and then I'll ask you for your answers as they come. The survey we've used is a YouGov survey, and these are the top 15 New Year's resolutions that the survey has said people will be doing in 2026.
Okay, so we want to guess what other people have done and not give you my personal list of
Well, we can talk about those if you really want. But yeah.
No, I don't have any, and I was panicked to come up with 8 of them live on a podcast. Okay, 7 or 8.
Right, I've got 7. These are not necessarily mine, but that's okay.
Well,
right?
It's first to 8, so you've only got 7. That would be tough.
Sorry, do I need?
Okay.
It's first to 8, yeah. So maybe write down 10, because Sophie could steal some as well.
I thought
okay.
It said 7. Okay, hold on.
How do we steal them? Is it just whoever yells it first?
No, you'll take it in turns. You'll go one at a time.
Okay, cool. So they should be in order of what we think is most likely. Got it.
Well, as long as they're on the list, they'll count.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, this is basically Family Fortunes, isn't it?
Similar. Okay, so now you've both got your answers, we'll get into it. Sophie, as you're currently behind in the overall standings, I'll give you the honours of going first in the New Year's mid-episode game. Tell me,
thank you so much.
What is the resolution you think most people will be doing in 2026?
I think the resolution most people will be doing in 2026 is to drink less.
Drink less. That, I can tell you, is the 10th most popular New Year's resolution for 2026. So that's 1 point to you, Sophie. The game is first to 8. David, hit me with yours.
Lose weight.
Lose weight was number 2. There we go. Both currently on 1 point. Sophie, how about your next one?
Okay. So I had lose weight as well, so I'll cross that off my list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My next one was to eat healthier.
Number 3 on the list. Very good start. We're still missing number 1, which is interesting. David, any ideas?
New job.
New job is number 8 on the list. So 2-2. Remember, the game is first to 8. Sophie.
Okay. I had new job as well. David, you've got the first and the second one I wrote down were the first and the second one that you read out. So I'm going to stick to my guns and read the number 3 one that I put down, which was spend more time with the kids.
I will give you that one. Spend more time / improve relationships with friends and family. So yes, that was number 7. David.
Get a new hobby.
Should I give you this one? Am I feeling nice in the new year? I can't give it to you, but I'll tell you what it is later in the game.
Okay.
So 3-2 to Sophie. She's currently 1 up.
Oh, here we go. I had better hobbies, but I'm going to say learn a new skill.
See, that is exactly what we were looking for. So 4-2 to Sophie. She's gone a break up if you were working on tennis scoring. David.
Okay. So these ones aren't going to apply because these are specific learn a new skill. So I went for learn a new language.
No, unfortunately not. Sophie's right in the lead here. Can she consolidate her lead?
Yeah. So I have 2 that I have conviction in. Okay, only allowed to say 1. I'm going to say exercise more.
That was the number 1 answer. If it was Family Fortune, you get like the when you win a prize. But there is no prize. David.
That's a good one.
5-2 to Sophie. We really need to get back in the game here. But you are the king of comebacks.
Well, that is true. Something about relationship goals, improving your relationship with your husband, wife, partner, whatever sort of thing.
That kind of links to Sophie's one, but I'll give it to you on the one above, which is be a better person. So there we go. That kind of is all encompassing. So that's 5-3 Sophie. First to end.
I am going to take the opposite tack, and I'm going to say, is it to end a relationship? Are there people who are like, I have to break up with this person this year?
Right.
No, unfortunately not. We did kind of had that around the job one. It could be like find or change job, but no, relationships, try and just repair the ones that you have, I guess. So still 5-3.
I've got a money one. So you could call this budgeting, investing, spending money more wisely, whatever, but look after your money a bit better.
Yeah, save more, spend less. That's number 4 on the list. So there you go.
Yeah. I had that one as well. David, you're stealing all of my best ones, and I've actually run out of ones that I wrote down previously. So I'm going to see what comes to mind. I think, and this is not speaking from personal experience, but is there something about kicking an unhealthy social media habit?
There is not, but you're along the right lines with kicking bad habits. I'll give you a clue there, 5-5. David.
I'm not going to lean into that. I've just thought another new one, which is listen to a podcast or more podcasts or better podcasts. I mean,
subscribe to our podcast.
Not on the list, we've missed the marketing opportunity.
Yeah, that's actually number 16, number 1 in our hearts, but not on the list, unfortunately. But you're along the right lines with taking in more content. So I'll help you with that.
Okay.
So you seemed like you had an epiphany after your last answer, which is?
I'm going to be shamelessly inspired by your hint, which is to stop smoking.
That is on the list, correct.
I mean, is that really on the list? How many people do smoke these days? I never see anybody smoking.
Well, maybe the modern game is...
stop vaping.
Yes, it's quit smoking and or vaping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, there's 3 more to get.
Okay. So I think paying attention to your mental health more then.
Mm-hmm.
The thing would probably help that, I would say, but a lot of people
meditate.
No, but you might do this on this certain thing. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't give you that one.
I'll leave that one, and David can come back to it. I have a sense of what it might be. Is one of them get a promotion?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, damn.
Go on holiday.
Go on holiday. There we go. That always betters your mental health. So, yeah, I think it's probably quite important for people listening to this podcast to remember to take a break and have a little bit of a travel and decompress all the stuff you kind of spoke about at the start of the episode.
Although they can take the podcast with them. So.
They can. The podcast is portable.
It travels.
So, yeah. So the last 2, one is around taking in more content, and the other one is around bettering yourself at work. So, yeah, those are your 2 clues. So it's... I think it's Sophie's guess, and it's 6-6.
Okay.
I don't know if go on holiday is a resolution. I think we typically do resolutions that are like, oh, I need to do something bad and horrible that will make me depressed, but I have to do it. But then you can do fun stuff. I read something that was a person who set a resolution to eat one of every different shape of pasta. And it's great. Do it. It's a fun goal.
Well, my personal one is to just take and post more photos. That's mine for 2026.
Take a what?
Take and post more photos.
Okay.
Okay, so better yourself at work. What was the other hint?
Take in more content.
Take in more content. Okay, so I'm going to say one is go to the cinema more, like watch more films.
No, unfortunately.
We did the podcast thing, so it can't be that. I think taking more content must be something around learn more, train yourself more, get tune into more educational content.
Oh, you're close, but I can't give it to you.
I think it's read the news more, but I think David should get that point because that's what you were saying. You were like expose yourself to more things. I was inspired from what you were saying.
Sophie, you're
I
losing,
summarized
girl.
it as do
Come
the
on,
news.
you're losing.
No,
Take
wait,
the win.
am I losing? Okay, if I'm losing, then I'll take the point.
We'll just call that a draw, and then we just need the
Okay.
last one, like the winning one.
Last one.
And this was
Which
around work.
Bettering yourself at work. You
Bettering
guys
yourself at
might
work.
already be very good at this, but I'm definitely not. Well, I am good at the second part, just maybe not the first part.
2 parts. Okay.
Bettering yourself at work.
Think about what people are generally bad at when they first go into work.
Listening.
Making friends.
Is that from personal experience?
Yeah.
Stealing from the stationery cupboard. Stop stealing from the stationery cupboard. Is that it?
No.
Putting your tea bags in the wrong bin.
Yes. Yeah. Leaving your mugs on your desk for the cleaners. You put them in the dishwasher.
Exactly.
I don't know
Nicking somebody else's mouse. These
No.
are all things that get you further on in work.
It's so basic. You got to get it. What are people notoriously bad at?
Oh, being on time.
No, but time is relevant.
Time management.
Yes, finally. The 5-minute game took 10 minutes, so good luck to Will editing that one.
Yeah,
But-
sorry, Will.
So David somehow has come back from the dead again to win 7-6.
Sorry, Sophie. Sorry.
It's just it's
becoming
how
a
it's meant to
pattern.
be. It
No,
is.
but-
It's a strong pattern.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure no one likes a multi-winner. So I'm sure whoever's listening is starting to cheer on Sophie and boo David through their phones. So
Well, let's not boo. Let's be positive.
No
and
booing.
uplifting.
Let's just be passive aggressive. I'm going to write the next disaster diaries, and it'll be me saying, "Listen, I have this thing at work, and this guy keeps on winning, and it's really, really awkward. What do I do?"
we'll do the next game is worth 4 just to see if we can get you back on level terms.
No, we'll just win even more.
Well, that concludes the mid-episode game. Thanks very much, guys, for playing, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks, Luke.
Another fun mid-episode game, which might be closer to the end of the episode. We'll see how it goes. So that was good. We've covered quite a lot this week. First week back in the new year. We're not going to do a disaster diary this week because we're trying to step into the new year in a positive light and be positive and stuff like that. And also because we're expecting to have a full mailbox of disaster diaries for people's first week. We know there'll be a lot of you starting your first week at work. You'll be turning to the CTO lens to get your inspiration and get you going in your new job. But one or two of you might have a rougher week than you intended, or might have found a problem that you just want a bit of help with. So make sure you drop us a DM, get us your disaster diary, and Sophie and I can pick that up from last week. Although you did have an inkling of a disaster, didn't you, for the diary, Sophie?
We did. We had one disaster diary in the mailbox from a Mr. S. Claus, who very, his tail really between his legs. He said that he had tried really, really hard to deliver 100 subscribers to the London Tech Leaders podcast, and he just didn't manage it. And he was looking for some help to kind of do a little bit of a retro on what went well, what didn't go well, so that next year he can bring 1,000, maybe 10,000 subscribers. Who knows? But I think let's reply to him privately, because it sounded like quite a sensitive issue, and so I don't think our audience needs to hear the
Yeah,
ins
no,
and outs
we
of
don't
what
want to
went
be
on there.
naming naughty boys and naughty girls at this point and who's on the good list and the bad list, right? Sort of thing. I think we should be benevolent and say I'm sure Mr. S. Claus will focus on that next year and over deliver. I'm sure that's what
Absolutely.
he's aiming for. So, all right. Well, listen. Thank you everybody for tuning in for our first episode of the year. Lots more to come, and thanks for joining me again, Sophie. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next week.